6:45. This is a Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The news edited by Lal Malwarachi and read by Lavani Vijayatunga. First, take a look at the headlines. The first public awareness rally will be held in Mathura today under the patronage of the President. A total of 11.6 billion rupees disbursed to the bank accounts of 622,495 Aswasma beneficiaries in the transitional and vulnerable categories for payments in June. Foreign Minister Ali Sabri will visit Japan tomorrow. The SLF festival of the Ruhun Khatargama Mahadevalaya will commence on Saturday. Bus fares will be reduced by 5% from tomorrow. In news overseas, Biden vows to fight on, rejecting calls to step aside. And in sports news, India wins T20 World Cup against South Africa. Those are the headlines, and now let's move on to the details of the local news. A series of public rallies have been organized to enlighten the public on the government development programs and the future plans. President Ranil Wickremesinghe will address the first rally to be held in Mathura this evening. The President revealed his strongest indication so far that he would be a candidate at the upcoming presidential election. Under the Aswasma Welfare Benefit Program, the Welfare Benefit Board has disbursed a total of 11.6 billion rupees to the bank accounts of 622,495 beneficiaries in the transitional and vulnerable categories for payments of June this year. In the first phase of the program, eligible beneficiaries in the vulnerable category received 5,000 rupees from July last year. Meanwhile, those in the transitional category received 2,500 rupees. In response to the current economic situation, President Ranil Wickremesinghe has instructed the Welfare Benefits Board to extend the payment period of special allowances for beneficiaries in the transitional and vulnerable categories under the Aswasma Welfare Benefit Payment Program until December this year. As a part of this initiative, a special allowance was disbursed to these categories for June, followed by monthly payments of 5,000 rupees each from July to December this year. Foreign Minister Ali Sabri is scheduled to undertake an official visit to Japan tomorrow following an invitation extended by Japanese Foreign Minister Yoko Kamikawa. During the visit, the Foreign Minister will engage in bilateral discussions with his Japanese counterpart, which will focus on making further progress on the outcome of the latter's official visit to Sri Lanka in May 2024. Foreign Minister Sabri will also call on several other dignitaries, including Chief Cabinet Secretary of Japan, Yoshimasa Hayashi. Meanwhile, Japanese Ambassador to Sri Lanka, Mitsukoshi Hideki, said that Japan will promptly resume its projects in Sri Lanka that were previously halted once the related MOUs are signed. This is the news from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. And we continue with more local news. The National Transport Commission says that bus fares will be reduced by 5% from tomorrow. This will result in a 2 rupee reduction in the minimum bus fare. Accordingly, the minimum bus fare will be reduced from 30 rupees to 28 rupees. The decision was taken during a meeting between the Lanka Private Bus Owners Association and Transport Ministry officials held recently. The SLF festival of the Ruhun Khatargama Mahadevalaya is scheduled to commence on Saturday, the 6th of July. The final Mahaperahara will parade the streets on the 21st of July. The Kumara entrance to the wildlife sanctuary is now open for the Padayatra pilgrims from the north and the east journeying to Khatargama on foot to attend. According to the traditions, the Padayatra pilgrims make the journey on foot through the jungle road through Kumara, taken by the Skandakumar or Kartikeya, revered as the god Khatargama, who landed on Okada beach to visit Valliyamba. The Padayatra pilgrims who are to commence their journey from Okada Devalaya would take about 20 days to reach Khatargama. Police media spokesman says that special security program is underway in the area with the help of the army during the Perahara season. And to conclude the local news, the headlines once again. The first public awareness rally will be held in Mathura today under the patronage of the President. A total of 11.6 billion rupees will be disbursed to the bank accounts of 622,495 Aswasma beneficiaries in the transitional and vulnerable categories for payments of June. Foreign Minister Ali Sabri to visit Japan tomorrow. The Asala festival of the Ruhur Katargama Mahadevalaya will commence on Saturday. Bus fares will be reduced by 5% from tomorrow. And that was the local news.
The main news story is brought to you by Sinhala Mahatmya.
The main news story for this morning, Minister Mahinda Amaravira instructed the Commissioner General of Department of Agrarian Development to provide financial assistance to fertilizer subsidy for the paddy farmers. Crediting the fertilizer subsidy money to the farmers' accounts, it has been found that some paddy owners change their farmers depending on each cropping season, so there are some delays in disbursing the fertilizer subsidy. This year, the government has given 5.4 billion rupees to farmers' accounts to buy fertilizers, but some farmers have complained that they have not yet received the money. And that was the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Sinhala Mahatmya.
In Watchline this morning, the Department of Immigration and Immigration has extended the validity of all passports that expire from June end by 1 year until the issuance of the e-passport project takes off in January next year. The department announced that the passports that expire after a period of 10 days by the 30th of June may be extended up to 1 year free of charge. The new electronic chip-inserted e-passport will be issued to the public by January next year, and the public is encouraged to get their new passports converted to an e-passport. And that came to you in Watchlight.
Coming up, World News.
Headlines of the world news: Biden vows to fight on, rejecting calls to step aside. Clashes break out near German far-right conference. Attempt to fly open basket balloon across Atlantic abandoned. Those are the headlines, and now let's move on to the details of the world news. U.S. President Joe Biden has hit back at criticism over his age, telling supporters in a fiery speech that he will win re-election in November after a poor debate performance fueled concerns about his candidacy. Mr. Biden, aged 81, said he believed with his heart and soul that he could serve another term as the cheering crowd in Raleigh chanted 4 more years. Mr. Biden's campaign has remained emphatic that the country's oldest presidential candidate is still fit to serve another term. Campaign officials said that he would not step aside for another nominee despite the poor performance. Police and protesters have clashed outside the annual conference of the far-right Alternative for German Party. Tens of thousands of people opposed to the AfD gathered in the city of Essen, local media reported, with the police drafted in form around the country in a bid to prevent disorder. Local police said the 2 officers were kicked in the head, seriously injured and taken to hospital during the violence, which began in early hours of Saturday morning before the official demonstration has started. The AfD's conference comes weeks after it shocked Germany's political establishment by becoming second in the European elections, winning 16% of all votes and beating the ruling centre-left party. A group of explorers hoping to be the first to fly across Atlantic in an open-basket hydrogen balloon have said that they are extremely disappointed after the attempt had to be abandoned. British explorer Sir David Hamilton Adams, aged 67, who lives in Wiltshire with his 2 friends, took off from Biscay Island, Maine, in Northern America, just after 230 hours UTC. But after about 7 hours in the air, the crew were forced to land near the Brookware, Canada, due to weather conditions. A spokeswoman for the crew said that they were all safe and well. And that was the world news.
Development news.
The Department of Agriculture has taken measures to construct the ground floor of the women's hostel of the agricultural school in Labaduwa in Gaul. 9.3 billion rupees will be spent on this project. It is expected to complete the construction work within 6 months period. And that came to you in the segment of development news.
Moving on with sports news.
India pulled off a sensational 7-run win against South Africa in a gripping final of the T20 World Cup yesterday. South Africa, playing its first ever final in an ICC tournament, needed a run a ball 30 to win back after Klaasen's aggressive 52 of 27 balls. But India's pace bowlers roared back in the last overs to restrict them at 169 for 8. Kohli's first half century in the tournament anchored India to 176 for the loss of 7 wickets after captain Rohit Sharma won the toss and elected to bat. This is India's second T20 World Cup title in 12 years. That was the sports news. Business news coming up.
Go ekak thiyana youth eකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න ඇස් වහගෙන දැකපු හින හැබැයි කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all-new NSB Ithru Mithru account. NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
The Commercial Bank of Ceylon won triple honours, including 2 golds at the Green Industry Awards 2024, presented by the Industrial Development Board to recognise success stories in sustainability. Sri Lanka's first 100% carbon-neutral bank, Commercial Bank, was presented the gold for the low carbon and or climate-resilient production for the positive impacts on the bank's journey to carbon-neutral status. That was the business news. Economic news follows.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Go ekak thiyana youth එකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න ඇස් වහගෙන දැකපු හින හැබැයි කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all-new NSB Ithru Mithru account. NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
In economic news, inflation in the Colombo district accelerated in June as widely expected, mainly due to the higher food prices, but the prices still remain largely below Central Bank's medium-term target of 5%. The inflation, measured by the Colombo Consumer Price Index, reported at 1.7% for June from a year ago, accelerating from 0.9% through May. The food prices, especially the vegetable prices, started rising substantially from around end May due to the rains, causing the June bump in prices of food prices. That is economic news and the weather report to conclude.
Weather report.
And finally, the weather report. Several spells of showers will occur in the western, Sabaragamuwa and northwestern provinces and in the Kandy, Nuwara Eliya, Galle and Mathura districts. Showers or thunder showers may occur at a few places in the Uva province and in the Ampara and Batticaloa districts in the evening or night. Strong winds about 50 km per hour can be expected at times over the western slopes of the Central Hills, northern, north central and northwestern provinces and in the Trincomalee, Hambantota and Monaragala districts. And before we conclude this bulletin, let's get back to the headlines once again. The first public awareness rally will be held in Mathura today under the patronage of the President. A total of 11.6 billion rupees disbursed to the bank accounts of 622,495 ASVESMA beneficiaries in the transitional and vulnerable categories for the payments of June. Foreign Minister Ali Sabri to visit Japan tomorrow. The SLA festival of the Ruhunu Kataragama Mahadevalaya will commence on Saturday. Bus fares will be reduced by 5% from tomorrow. In news overseas, Biden vows to fight on, rejecting calls to step aside. And in sports news, India wins T20 World Cup against South Africa. And with that, we conclude this bulletin of news. Now it's back to your Sunday morning host, my good friend Abhishek, on the other side of the glass panel.